Can you still feel the flutter of bell-bottomed pants and the soft, sun-warmed cotton of tie-dye shirts on your skin? The scent of patchouli drifting through summer air, peace symbols dangling from leather cords, and hair flowing free. These weren't just styles, they were statements. In the heart of the 1960s, American streets were awash with a riot of colors and fabrics, each outfit a silent protest, a burst of creativity, or a call for freedom. From the old rules, hippie fashion rebelled with every fringe, flower crown, and beaded sandal, reflecting a generation's hope for change and unity. Did you once stitch your own jeans or press a fresh daisy behind your ear before heading to the park? Many of us still smile at the memory of embroidered denim or the gentle ring of bangles on our wrist. What did these vibrant fashions mean to you back then? As we take a trip back into the era of flower power, you might discover there's more behind that paisley print than you remember. So do you still have a piece tucked away, waiting for another summer of love? Step back with me to the early 1960s when the world was edging into a new age of self-expression. At the dawn of that decade, America was still reeling from the conservatism of the 50s, an era colored with crisp dress shirts, carefully curled hair, and the uniformity of suburban life. Everyday fashion was tidy, modest, and just a little bit predictable. Yet below the surface, currents were shifting. Young people began questioning the traditions they'd inherited about war, politics, music, and, yes, even what they chose to wear. The roots of hippie fashion didn't sprout overnight. Instead, they were sown gradually, nurtured by a spirit of rebellion and a longing for something authentic, colorful, and free. Do you recall the first time you saw someone breaking the fashion rules, not in a movie or on a stage, but right down the block? In the early 60s, American youth were already experimenting with subtle signs of change. College campuses saw students trading in starched collars for simple, comfortable tees and jeans, a quiet rebellion, but a rebellion nonetheless. Meanwhile, the beatnik movement, with its penchant for black turtlenecks and berets, had begun to sow seeds of alternative style in urban centers like New York's Greenwich Village and San Francisco's North Beach. The Beats were literary rebels, but their artistic nonchalance with dress was picking up admirers. Some say it was in smoky coffee houses lit by bare bulbs and filled with the poetry of Allen Ginsberg and the jazz of Miles Davis that America's fashion revolution began to gather steam. Yet it was the convergence of social change, music, and a rising youth movement that flipped the switch completely. The civil rights marches, the growing anti-war protests, and the folk music boom all played their part. Young people started to see themselves not just as citizens, but as individuals with a message to share, and their clothing became one of their first megaphones. Do you remember watching the television footage from the march on Washington or Monterey Pop Festival and feeling like the old world's wardrobe just didn't fit anymore? The earliest signs of hippie style were humble: handmade jewelry, sandals, worn denim, Indian cotton tunics called kurtas. Natural became the watchword. Instead of pressing every crease from their shirts and hair, these rebels let their hair grow long and loose, their clothes hang free. And there was something more than fashion at stake. Every frayed edge, every patch and bead was a little act of defiance against mass-produced sameness. You might not believe this, but many early hippies shopped for clothes not in fancy boutiques, but at thrift stores, army surplus shops, and street markets. In doing so, they redefined the very idea of style, turning cast-offs and second-hand goods into the height of cool. Do you ever wonder what inspired that first bold renegade to stitch piece patches onto their jeans or to wear a faded military jacket as a sign of protest instead of pride? One surprising fact is that early hippie fashion wasn't about spending money or following a trend. In fact, the very word hippie started as a playful take on hipster, shared among the insiders of the counterculture scene. Their look was about authenticity and even a bit of anti-fashion. It was as much about how you lived as what you wore. That might explain why these distinctive styles still feel so personal and meaningful to us today. The British invasion around 1964, seemingly a distant event, had a strange impact on American street style. Young women, inspired by the likes of Mary Quant and Twiggy, began altering their thrifted finds, blending miniskirts and paisley blouses for a look that mixed mod with emerging hippie tastes. Across the Atlantic, London's swinging 60s scene brought wild prints and a daring new energy, while in California, vibrant colors and Easterner influences became visible at every gathering in Golden Gate Park. As the decade went on, fashion broke free from the controlled tones of the Eisenhower years, splashing the world in color. Perhaps the biggest surprise, much of what we now call hippie fashion originated from older traditions and faraway lands. Many young Americans, searching for deeper meaning, delved into Native American beadwork, South Asian textiles, African dashikis, and South American ponchos. They visited import stores in college towns and big cities, scooping up saris, Guatemalan woven bags, and leather sandals. It was like building new lives from borrowed treasures. Did you ever pick up a fringed vest or beaded necklace, tracing your fingers over its patterns and wondering about its origins? There's a chance your prized festival accessory started its journey halfway around the globe. Beyond the clothing, 1960s fashion was woven into the fabric of the times. Music festivals, civil rights rallies, and happenings became spontaneous fashion runways. Long hair, once a symbol of nonconformity, became practically a political statement. Homespun garments and flower crowns reflected both a rejection of mass-produced culture and an embrace of natural living. Did you find yourself tempted to cut up an old curtain to sew your own skirt or try tie-dye in the backyard, just to see if you could capture a little of that spirit? By 1967, dubbed the Summer of Love, the hippie aesthetic was flourishing nationwide. San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury neighborhood blossomed into a living tapestry of youth culture, its streets filled with flowing skirts, beaded headbands, and layered patterns. Clothes were often swapped, shared, or gifted between friends, reinforcing the communal ideals that drew so many to the movement in the first place. Ironically, what began as a rejection of the fashion mainstream soon captured the world's attention. And because so much of it was handmade or secondhand, each outfit felt like a story, a memory, a one-of-a-kind creation. As you look back, maybe you remember standing out from the crowd for the first time, whether it was by wearing a tie-dye tee to a local concert or donning a pair of wire-rimmed glasses instead of the plastic frames everyone else had. Do you recall how liberating it felt to wear something nobody else had, something that spoke to who you were inside? That's the soul of hippie fashion, individuality woven into each stitch, each color, each accessory. But the hippie look was never just about looks. It was about making a statement. The bold experimentation in style went hand in hand with revolutionary new music, protest art, and philosophy that questioned everything from consumerism to traditional gender roles. As we peel back the layers of this iconic movement, it's worth asking, was there a moment in your own life when what you wore sparked a conversation, or even changed how you were seen? And as the late 60s dawned, the beat of the counterculture grew louder, drawing more and more Americans, young and old, into the swirl of freedom and self-expression. The once quiet rebellion bloomed into a public movement. Soon enough, the practical sandals and worn jeans of the early years would give way to daring colors, psychedelic prints, and the global influences that would define the classic hippie look. But how exactly did this simple grassroots style blossom into a bold cultural force on the world stage? Stay tuned, we're about to follow the trail from modest beginnings to a full-on fashion revolution. As we come to the close of our journey through the vibrant world of 1960s hippie fashion, it's impossible not to marvel at how much a simple shift in style represented. What started as a quiet rebellion against the conformity and constraints of earlier decades soon blossomed into a powerful movement that changed the way we looked at clothing, identity, and each other. From the earliest days of thrift store finds, hand-stitched jeans and beads, to the swirling colors of tie-dye shirts and the wild mix of global influences, hippie fashion was always about much more than making a statement. It served as a form of personal liberation, a wearable manifesto that anyone, regardless of means or background, could create for themselves. Think back to a time when styles were more than just trends. They were badges of what you believed, who you stood with, and what sort of world you hoped to build. Those bell-bottoms and frayed jackets carried with them a sense of unity, a declaration of independence from the ordinary. Underneath every patch and peace symbol was a yearning for authenticity and a plea for change. The clothes not only allowed you to break away from the conventional, but they linked you to a broader community, a gathering of souls who all sought peace, love, and a brighter tomorrow. Whether you recall sewing beads into your hair, fashioning a vest out of a thrifted curtain, or simply marveling at the sight of a neighbor's kaleidoscopic ensemble, you shared a season in American life where creativity knew no bounds. But hippie fashion was also deeply rooted in the spirit of sharing and discovery. Every fringe, every borrowed tunic, every hand-me-down poncho was a thread in a fabric that bound friends, families, and even strangers together. Clothes were traded, made, and passed along like small treasures, carrying with them stories and laughter. The softness of natural fabrics against your skin, the warm sun at your back on a festival field, the stray notes of a folk song floating over a patchwork quilt. These were moments that went beyond just what you wore. They became sensory memories, creating a legacy that still brings a wistful smile years later. What's especially remarkable is how the ideals sewn into those garments, freedom, unity, peace, and acceptance, have stood the test of time. Even now, decades later, echoes of that era show up in new generations' wardrobes and in the cycle of styles that come and go. Trends may return, but that boldness of spirit and creative drive remain unmistakably tied to the age of flower power. Does a particular piece of clothing still spark a memory for you? Maybe you've kept a well-worn headband, a lucky festival poncho, or a necklace from a far-off market. How did dressing in those wild colors and easy fabrics make you feel? Empowered, understood, or perhaps even a little mischievous? I'd love for you to join in and keep the spirit alive. Share your memories of hippie fashion in the comments below. What was your favorite piece to wear or the most daring look you ever tried? If you enjoyed reliving these colorful days, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the stories and styles that shaped our world. And if you know someone whose heart still beats to the rhythm of those sun-drenched summers, go ahead and share this with them. Together, let's celebrate the creativity and courage it took to wear your true colors on the outside. As we pack away this chapter, remember, those threads of freedom and hope are still woven through our lives. Sometimes all it takes is a splash of color or the jangle of a favorite bracelet to bring it all rushing back. Until we meet again, may you always walk in peace, love, and a bit of joyful style, just like the summer days of old.